you need some receiver help, here's a few receivers that had good ball games this week in Week 12 and that can help you this week on the waiver wire heading into Week 13. The first guy is Deebo Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. He's a guy I've been saying for now 2 weeks to stash him. And he came out with a big ball game versus the Rams with 11 catches, 133 yards. There was no Brandon Ayuk in this one. There was no George Kittle, obviously. So now Deebo Samuel, he's back. He looked healthy from that hamstring injury. And Nick Mullins, he was comfortable hitting them a lot of screens. That were using him in a lot of movements around the field. And he's available still in 45% of leagues. So this is probably the last week you could go out there and get Deebo Samuel where he could help your ball club, because this guy, he's a dynamic receiver. He could do many things in the passing game, and we saw it again here today versus the Rams in that upset victory. He was all over the field and no one could cover him. Even Jalen Ramsey had some trouble when he was guarding Deebo in this ball game. So he's the first guy. The second guy, Ted, wide receiver this week, is Gabriel Davis of the Buffalo Bills. Davis was a guy I said to stash heading into the weekend, and he didn't disappoint in this ball game with 3 catches, 79 yards, and a touchdown. He's still out there in 97% of leagues. John Brown's hurt. We don't know how long he's going to be out. Cole Beasley threw that touchdown to Davis, believe it or not. And Beasley, he had a mediocre game. Nothing great in this one. But this was a hard-fought game by both teams. Beasley, he only had 2 catches for 25 yards, but the touchdown saved his day. But anyway, it was a good ball game. Josh Allen, he likes the big receiver. Obviously, Buffalo likes him. He was out there in a lot of 2-receiver sets, and he's a big target, and he's another good rookie in this stacked rookie draft class that came to play this year. And he's a guy I'm looking to pick up this week before he has another blow-up game and he's not on my team and I see him do it somewhere else on someone else's team. So go out there and pick Gabriel Davis. The next guy is Rashad Perriman of the New York Jets. Perriman, he's been hurt most of the season, but now he's returned finally. The last 4 weeks is Perriman, and he's had some big ball games of late. 29 fantasy points in Week 9, 11. He had 13 in Week 11, and this week versus Miami, a nice 4 catches, 79 yards on 8 targets, and now he's got the Raiders coming up. This guy, he's more than number 1, I think, in this Jet offense. Jamison Crowder, he didn't do much again in this game. Mims, he had a couple opportunities, but couldn't make the plays out of them. So right here, Perriman, he's a deep threat. He's a good route runner. He's a guy looking to make another contract after the year. And the Jets, they're going to be trailing in a lot of ball games the rest of the way. They're 0-11 for a reason. So Rashad Perriman, he's out there in a whole bunch of leagues. And he's a guy I could start confidently as a flex guy, especially in a pretty decent matchup versus Vegas. He's available in 88% of leagues, is Perriman. And like I said, he's getting the looks. He's the number 1 receiver over there, I believe, on the Jets. And he's got 20 targets in his last 3 games. So go out there and get Rashad Perriman. The 4th wide receiver is Allen Lazard of the Green Bay Packers. Lazard, he came off the core injury last week. Then in Week 12 versus Chicago, he had a double-digit fantasy point game with a touchdown in that one. And Lazard, he's in a top offense. And like I said, if you could get a guy who's in a top offense and he's going to have a role, you got to go out there and get that guy and own him and see what he does. And Lazard, he's a guy who could have some huge games. And we saw it earlier in the year before he got injured. And he's available in 61% of leagues. So he's a guy I'm looking to go get maybe. And this week, he had a good game versus Chicago. Now he's got a pretty decent matchup versus Philly in Week 13. So go out there and get Lazard. And the 5th and final guy, I can't believe he's back on the radar, kind of, is T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts. Hilton, he finally did something big this week in Week 12 with 4 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown on 5 targets. Just for whatever reason this season, him and Phillip Rivers couldn't get on the same page. Hilton, he was horrible for fantasy owners this year. He had 2 double-digit fantasy games the whole season now, and this was his first one here in Week 12 since Week 5. In Week 13, he's got a game versus the Houston Texans where Hilton's got a great track record in his career versus. But he's a guy, I don't know if I'm really going to go out there and try to get him, but I got to put him on this list because he's a guy with name recognition and he finally had a good game. So maybe him and Rivers have been working and they'll get things going. But anyway, that's 5 wide receivers I'm looking to target on waivers heading into week 13.